Hello, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Carol Jenkins. The program is Black America. In Rosa Parks' autobiography, My Story, Mrs. Parks writes, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired, but that isn't true. I was not tired physically, or no more tired physically, or no more tired than I usually was at the end of a working day. I was not old either, although some people have an image of me as being old then. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in." And joining me today is award-winning filmmaker Yoruba Richen, co-director of The Rebellious Life of Mrs. Parks, now airing on Peacock. Yoruba, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
That in her own story, she told, "I was not tired, I was just fed up." You know, nobody really paid attention to her saying that, but now you've said that in your documentary, which now everybody is paying attention to. How did this myth get started? Was that the easy way of using a black woman's protest?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible how how that myth has been perpetuated. It's what we learn in school. It's the one thing that we know about Mrs. Parks. I think it was perpetuated for a lot of different reasons. The fact that she was a woman, that she was that she was a woman. She wasn't given the credit of really the strategy, her activism, her long activism, both before and after the bus boycott. And like many other black women in the movement, her true legacy, her true significance in the black freedom struggle was reduced to that one moment. And then I also think it's easy to, she's considered an accidental activist, right?
Exactly.
She's, just tired, so she sat down, as opposed to understanding the real strategy that Mrs. Parks had and that the movement had around the bus boycott. I mean, we don't even understand really how the bus boycott worked, and that it went on. It wasn't just one moment she sat down and then, segregation on the buses were over. This was more than a year long movement that faced major resistance from the white power structure. It was a movement that had been, they tried to launch for years. So this was a strategy. It was deliberate, and it was pretty monumental as well.
Yeah. So, didn't she work for the NAACP for something like 2 decades? Prior to that.
So she worked she was the secretary for the NAACP. She was before all of this in 1955.
Right.
In the 1940s, she was going in the South investigating sexual crimes against black women. In the South in the 1940s, taking testimony, very dangerous work. So and before that, she worked with her husband on the Scottsboro Boys case.
I know, and watching the film, I was surprised about that, because that was such a notorious case. But also in the film, you talk about the Reese Taylor incident, and this is in the 40s that Rosa Parks was engaged in. Let's take a look at that from your documentary.
I remember one case out in Abbeville, Alabama, where my father and his family came from. Mrs. Reese Taylor was on her way home from church when she was kidnapped, forced into a car at gun and knife point, stripped of her clothing, and raped by 6 white men on September 3rd, 1944.
Then put a blindfold on her, took her back and dumped her in the middle of town, and said, "If you tell nobody, we'll kill you." She went promptly to the sheriff and told him. And they realized that nothing's going to happen to these men.
Wow, that's a brave woman. That's a woman long before the bus boycott was doing dangerous, serious work.
Absolutely, and this was work that Mrs. Parks did throughout her life. She was always looking at these issues, investigating these issues around the criminal justice system, like the Scottsboro Boys case, and around sexual violence against Black women, which, you know, was something that was, was considered something that didn't happen. The myth was that Black men raped white women, right? That's what all the lynchings, from, you know, Emmett Till to, you know, many, many more. But Black women were not protected. Were not protected, and rape of Black women was something that, you know, we had endured since we were brought here. So her doing that work in the 1940s, and throughout her life. We also talk about a case, the Joanne Little case in the 1970s, which became a big cause for Black feminists and activists, and she was part of that. And Joanne Little was raped by a white jailer in North Carolina and ultimately exonerated. She became the first woman, and she fought back. She killed him, and she was exonerated because of self-defense,
sure.
and became the first woman who was exonerated on self-defense against sexual assault. Rosa Parks was involved in that case.
Right. So, Yoruba, the film is just fantastic, as all of your films are. I'm such, as you know, a fan of your work, even the one I was in, or maybe I was going to say, especially the one I was in.
Especially the one.
The Green Book, you know,
right.
talking about the use of that for Black travelers and whatever. What you tell about Rosa Parks, though, that is most infuriating was her impoverishment. The fact that here was a woman who was the symbol of civil rights. Nelson Mandela, when he came here and saw her, I mean, that was a highlight for him. I mean, the world respected this woman, and yet she and her husband, she was caring for him, her mother until the day she died, and with virtually no money.
Yeah, it's really incredible. After the boycott, after this huge victory, she was threatened physically. There was backlash against her and her husband. She lost her job pretty immediately when a couple weeks into the boycott, and she was threatened and had to leave Montgomery. And she had family in Detroit. Her brother was in Detroit, so she went up to Detroit. But she was economically insecure for many, many years. The Southern Christian Leadership Council, Dr. King's, you know, emerged from the boycott as the international spokesperson,
Nobel Prize winner,
absolutely. And Rosa Parks got nothing. She was not offered a job. They did not offer her a job. So she goes to Detroit, and she is living on she and her husband are living on the margins for many years until she gets the job with Congressman John Conyers.
Right, and I love that story so much because he was paying her, unlike...
Yes, it was her first paid job as a political, you know, activist.
And she kept apologizing and said, you need to reduce my salary because I have to spend so much time going off to accept these awards.
Right.
I feel sorry about taking your money. I mean, what a...
Yeah. And I think that's also, you know, it was also her personality. She was not one to, you know, to boast, to, you know, to demand things. And I think that had to do also with the situation, you know, what women's expectations, what the expectations were of women at that time as well.
So ultimately she got the presidential award from President Clinton. There was recognition there. But, and of course, when she lay in state after she died, there was like thousands, and I was among the thousands of people who lined up in the middle of the night, you know, to go pay final respects to her. But still, her story was not known. And really, until Jean Theo-Harris wrote the book, and you now have done the film about the real Rosa Parks, and that rebellious in the title, intentional.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I just want to say about that is going back to when she was working at John Conyers, right? So she's working for this, you know, trailblazing, radical congressman in Detroit in the 60s, in the center of, everything that's happening in the 60s, the center of Black militancy, anti-war movement, uprisings, and she's interviewed by the media, and she's only asked about 1955, right. Not what's happening, not the work that she's doing now, not the work that she's doing with Conyers. So I think it's just a really sort of crystallizes how her legacy is really diminished. Right. Even in her passing.
Right. And I love the photos of her with Malcolm X and Stokely Carmichael. She may not have been, as nonviolent truly either.
That's right. Well, she believed in self-defense.
Right.
We start the film off with one of her earliest memories is sitting on the porch with her grandfather, who has a rifle, who's protecting his family from the KKK. That's her first memory.
Right.
And she was a lifelong believer in self-defense.
Yes, and I think her mother had to warn her not to pick up the brick that she wanted to use.
That's right. When she was being teased by a white boy, yes.
Right. So incredible. Now you're taking the film, it's on Peacock, so everybody can watch it there, and you're taking it to Montgomery.
Yes, we're going to be screening, it'll be our second time screening in Montgomery. I'll be there this time, so I'm very excited.
With some of the original participants of the bus boycott.
On the panel will be Doris Crenshaw, who is in Rosa Parks' youth group, who was part of the boycott, and the attorney Fred Gray, who we weren't able to interview in the film. So I'm very excited to be in conversation with both of them.
And so much material. I keep telling you, there's got to be a part 2. It's more Rosa Parks.
Exactly, more Rosa Parks. There's so much that we couldn't include. Obviously, we have a limited time, but also too how we decided to structure the film. We really wanted to lead with Mrs. Parks' voice. So not only her archival, video, audio, but letters that she wrote. Correspondence that she had, and we have an actress, Lisa Gay Hamilton, reading her words.
Right. Well, I was so pleasantly surprised, to put it mildly, to learn that there was an archive, that there were letters, that there were photographs, and it had been preserved. And so, first for Jean's book and then for your documentary,
absolutely,
you had something to start on, and that is something that I don't think Black families yet quite understand the need of and the importance of saving all of those documents, because it's history. And as we know, that's American history, not Black history, not...
Well, it's that archive is now in the Library of Congress.
Right.
So in our nation's archive, and it's really fortunate that they were put there just pretty recently. And so,
I think Howard Buffett had something to do with
it.
He did,
yeah, it was the Buffett family.
Right.
I believe one of the sons
right.
Paid for it to gather everything together and put them in the Library of Congress. So you can actually look online and see these writings, these artifacts. It's pretty amazing.
It is amazing. One of the things to thank goodness for the digital world we live in now.
Yes.
Many things to be concerned.
That's right.
So let's talk about where we are now, because you are the founding director of the documentary program, for CUNY, at the J School there. What are you telling your students now about how they proceed in a world of critical race theory, of banning books, of this anti-wokeness?
Yeah. Well, being that this movement started really in the last, was really ginned up, I would say, in this last year. We at the J School and with my students, we really focus on how we tell stories and different kinds of stories, and how we the integrity, the ethics, and the creativity around storytelling, and also the industry that we're in, for sure, and how you can become a working documentary filmmaker. We are, I think my students are really interested in the kinds of stories that they want to tell, are combating this, are not cowed by this attempt to ban history, to make people, as I keep saying, to keep people asleep, which is obviously what these people want to do. And I feel like documentary film is such a vibrant place to do that and to continue to tell these stories and this history.
But the problem with it is that you need money to do it. And
It
so
can be a problem.
fundraising, and we know after the George Floyd incident, the whole documentary space was flooded with donors who wanted films. Suddenly, there was interest in Black lives and the situation, et cetera. But what I hear is that is drying up or has dried up.
Yeah, I think with both Me Too, actually, and with the racial reckoning, there was a very needed attention to look at a real reckoning in all industries, and that's a good thing. We always said, those of us, people of color, working in the space, always said, we'll see how long this lasts. And as the economy is kind of strange, and we're seeing some movements of traditional places that have supported documentary film and funded documentary film,
like CNN,
Showtime, pulling back. HBO Max. So there is definitely a kind of realignment that's happening, and we'll see. I have to say, I remember 2008 with the recession in 2008, and I was trying to finish my first film. That was literally trying to get funding to finish my first film, which eventually aired on PBS. But there was also a really big retrenchment of funding, and as a filmmaker, you have to figure out a way to support yourself during our economy, as we know, is a boom-bust economy. But always, and I tell this to my students, your passion, your drive, your vision will really take you far. And you have to, if you want to be a filmmaker, a documentary filmmaker, that's where your energy has to be channeled.
Yeah, we'll talk about passion and vision. I see in social media, because I follow you, and you're getting this grant, that grant. Well, talk to us about Firelight first, because you're the William Greaves Fellow.
Yes, well, Firelight Media, founded by Stanley Nelson and his wife, has been a really big supporter of my work, and of so many of us. I mean, the first film that I mentioned, that was one of the first projects that was accepted into the Firelight Media Lab, which is a mentorship program for people of color filmmakers.
Sensational.
And now it's amazing to see how it's grown and to see the support. And I'm very lucky to have received one of their grants, the William Greaves Fund, named after the trailblazing filmmaker, not just documentary, but fiction, TV producer, documentary filmmator, William Greaves.
One of the heroes.
One
the
of
legends,
the heroes,
right?
the legends. And it's a grant to support one of my next projects, which I'm co-directing with my colleague Brad Lichtenstein. We've worked on another film together about the Wilmington insurrection of 1898, which people may or may not know about, is considered the most successful political insurrection in this country, where an interracial government in Wilmington, North Carolina, which was a vibrant city, Black businesses, interracial sort of relationships and living next to each other. And this is, of course, at the tail end of Reconstruction. A interracial government was elected called the Fusion Government, and the white supremacists, and that's literally what they call themselves, white supremacists. They were
proud of the title.
Proud of the title, overthrew, conspired and overthrew the government, and then massacred and ran out much of the Black population.
So what's the archive for you for that film?
Yes, good question, because there is not much, even though we are, we'll be digging deep and finding more. But and so there are some pictures, there is some archive, but we're also thinking and figuring out how to graphically represent visually represent the events. So it'll be another sort of creative challenge to figure that out. Because there's not as much archive as as films that I've done in a later history.
Right. And talk a little bit about some of the other films. So the Green Book, which was a big hit.
Yes. Oh, it was so great, and that's how we connected. So the Green Book is on the Smithsonian Channel. I think it's actually on Paramount Plus now because they've all merged. And it came out a few years ago, right before a couple years before the pandemic. And it looks at the Green Book, the the travel guide that was created for African Americans to navigate, this country, to navigate safely. This country was started in 1936 by Victor Green in New York, and soon spread all over the country and eventually all over the world. And not only, and there were listings every year of businesses, including your uncle's.
The A.G. Gaston Motel, by the
That's
way,
right.
which when we were in Birmingham, it hadn't been reopened yet, but now a section of it has been reopened.
Amazing.
So,
That's
it's
so
part of that
amazing.
civil rights
and
monument.
the Gaston Hotel was, the premier hotel for African American travelers, and also became. It was an important hub at which we tell in the story of the civil rights movement. It's where the campaign to desegregate Birmingham happened, where Dr. King and his colleagues stayed. So it's just an incredible history. And your uncle was, one of the self-made millionaire.
I love Yoruba talking about
But it's
my,
all the
my
stuff
uncle.
that I didn't, you don't know about,
Right.
to bring to life. And one other thing about the Green Book too, which I think is so important, is it was not just for, for safety, but for Black Americans, but also places we could go for recreation and pleasure, which we have also been doing despite, the circumstances in this country. But we've been doing that from the beginning as well. So it became a place where places like Idlewild in Detroit and other places were listed where Black people can go on vacation.
Right. And the Brianna Taylor
Yes.
documentary, I want to talk about that because,
Yes.
again, in the sense of Black women who are ignored.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So that is a film that I made, one of my most important films, I feel like, in June of 2020. So Brianna had been killed in March, and I made it for the New York Times Presents their television program. It's streaming on FX and Fox. The New York Times presents the killing of Brianna Taylor. And we tell the story of who Brianna was as a person, who she was to her family members, and to her loved ones, to her colleagues, and then also try to understand why this happened, or how this happened. The why is, but how this happened. And we were the first to interview the survivor of that night, her boyfriend who survived that night, and to have sort of long interviews with her mother and other family members. And it was very
won a big award for this too.
we won the NAACP Image Award, and it was very painful to make. It was very hard. It was so raw. It had just happened. Even thinking about it now, it's emotional. Because what I realized, and it's in making that film, it just became very palatable how these losses, these tragic deaths from police, how it's not just the loss of this one person, but how the community loses. That Louisville was up in arms because of this, was feeling this viscerally, so painful. In addition to her mother and her cousins and her colleagues. So it was just a very, and of course we're still seeing this happen.
Sure.
Of course, as you mentioned, Black women who are killed at the hands of the police do not get the same attention. In fact, Brianna's story really became prominent after the killing of Ahmaud Arbery and of George Floyd, and that's how they were able to get attention to it. So it's a very hard.
So you're telling all of these, in most instances, hard stories. and I know that you've got the American Federation of Teachers, collaborating with you in the Rosa Parks film. Talk to us a little bit about that kind of cooperation that needs to happen in order to confront critical race theory, the banning of books and films.
Yeah, I mean, we were really thrilled to hear that the AFT were working with our impact people to use the film to combat this banning of history. We were we screened on Rosa Parks's, what would have been her 110th birthday, February 4th in Detroit, with Randy Weingarten, the head of the AFT. And it's so important that they are working to take this on and to say, you know what, we're not backing down. We are going to tell this history, and it's important as teachers for us to tell this history. We also have a initiative with the Zinn Education Project, which is also working with teachers around the country.
As in the magnificent Howard Zinn,
That's
who
right.
tells history the way really.
That's right.
Yoruba, thank you so much for everything that you have done in your filmmaking life, in your teaching life, and it's wonderful to have you here. You'll have to come back again.
Of course I will.
Always.
Thank you for having me.
She keeps making movies, and we keep saying, come back. Thank you so much. That's it for us at this time. Thanks to you for joining us. I'm Carol Jenkins. I want to thank my guest, Yoruba Richen, for being with us and giving us more insight into the life that Rosa Parks lived. Be sure to catch the Rebellious Life of Mrs. Rosa Parks on Peacock. The program is Black America. I'm Carol Jenkins. We'll see you the next time.